Parker Schnabel and Tony Beets are the stars of Discovery's hit show Gold Rush, which is back for a 9th season. This season will be unlike any other, with new miners and rivalries as the crews mine for gold. Let's watch a clip that shows the problems that arise after Parker Schnabel's absence from the crew, and how Mitch Blash tried to avoid getting fired by Parker Schnabel as a young gold miner. Parker Schnabel is an entrepreneur who has pretty much seen it all when it comes to gold mining. This is probably because he was born into a gold mining family as the son of a miner and his grandfather was the famous Big John. After his grandfather took him under his wing, the young miner, whose only goal since he was 16 years old was to start his own mining company, seemed to have a bright future. We watched 14 seasons of Gold Rush, a TV show about mining for gold. During that time, he had to deal with problems like other competitors, the elements, and the saying, if you can barely afford to buy a plane, you shouldn't have a plane, which means that if you can barely afford to buy a gold mine, you shouldn't have a gold mine. Parker soon learned that he may have to deal with these issues as he tries to reach his goal of running his own successful gold mining business in the years to come. This reminds us of the time Parker had to go to the Indian River to try to get 2 plants up and running. He said, "This is a critical move for the year, right? I'm going to go over to Fairbanks, so I'm not going to be here. Do you feel comfortable about where you're at?" So that he could finish some plans he had about an interesting mining claim he found there. But before he could do that, he decided to meet with his foreman Mitch Blash at the Parker was relieved when Mitch told him that everything was okay, and that he didn't need to worry. After all, their 2 wash plants were working well, and it didn't look like that would change anytime soon. Big Red was doing a good job down there, but we're behind on getting through the square footage we need to without 2 plants going. When you get back, hopefully we'll have wash plant. While Parker was setting up the 2 plants, Mitch would find that he had some things to worry about. It was almost as if the machines were waiting for Parker to leave, because as soon as Parker left, Mitch would find that one of the machines had suddenly broken down again. You can imagine what Mitch was thinking at that very moment. How much will it cost to fix this now? How long will it take to fix this? Will this affect Parker's schedule? What is he going to do about this broken machine? We're sure Mitch wished he hadn't told Parker that everything would be fine while he was away on that trip to close the deal at the Indian River in Fairbanks, Alaska. How is Mitch going to fix things now? It was his job to oversee the other miners' work in the mines. He made sure they were working day and night to find all the gold that would help them reach their goal. As we get closer to the middle of summer, the days will start getting shorter every day. Time is flying by. We need to have Lucifer on that new wash plant pad. He was also in charge of making sure the wash plants were working at their best, so it shouldn't have been a surprise that he was confused and maybe even disappointed when he realized that his wash plant would not be useful while Parker was away. It almost feels like a betrayal. Even worse, the super stacker, one of the most important machines in the unit, broke down before they could do anything on the mines. What's this? The 2 wash plants, Lucifer and Big Red, were supposed to work together to slow gold while Parker was away. That was the only way they could meet their weekly goals, but now it all seems like a dream, because they can't even get the machines to start. Mitch will have to come up with solutions if he wants to get the gold. They needed these machines to start working again so they could even hope of meeting their weekly goals. The plan seemed reasonable. Here's my first Lucifer game scoop of the 2022 season. If they could just move Lucifer to a big 30 ft high pad, they could put together the super stacker and connect the 2 so that it could feed pay dirt into Lucifer's big frame. This would let Lucifer wash the pay dirt, which would then lead to the production of those clean gold nuggets that we all love. Actually, they set up the 30 ft high pad before doing some tests. The cone convinced them that they could also start working on the super stacker, and they even moved Lucifer to the large pad. Now they hoped to use the 12 FD super stacker to feed the pay dirt into the waiting wash plant. At first, it looked like the super stacker was also working fine, and the team was amazed to see such a big machine get to work on the mines. But as they started moving things around, when they started to lower the machine, everything came to a head. Usually it takes 4 days to clean up after a run, but this time it's only been 2 days, and you can see gold building up in all the riffles. It's time to do a cleanup. This is a good problem to have because everyone was shocked when the machine stopped suddenly. What could have gone wrong? Soon, Alec Kelly, one of the mechanics on the crew, ran over to the machine to figure out what. After running around the huge machine, he was shocked to find an oil leak. As much as they'd like this to be a small issue, they dreaded the moment they realized it could be a major issue that would seriously hurt the team's plans. Maybe this was because fixing the super stacker would take some time, so instead of finding gold, they would have to spend time fixing the machine. Alec was disappointed when he got there and said that he had just realized that the super stacker had blown the plug right out of the cylinder. This is what caused the potentially fatal leak in the machine. Hopefully you can just pound out those 700 from the strip and get Big Red up to Mud Mountain. It's a real priority. That's my priority, the best ground we can find. Apparently this plug is important because it keeps the hydraulic oil in place by controlling the lifting cylinder, and without this plug the hydraulic oil would leak. The team knew they had to stop all the leaks right away in order to solve this huge problem. Alec thought it might be best to move the superstacker, but this turned out to be a bad idea because the top of the plug that was sealing the cylinder fell off. This made what could have been a manageable problem even worse by creating an even bigger leak that was fatal to the machine's operation. At this point Mitch had it all under control. It wasn't even funny before he knew what was going on. I can say that getting back in the low is like riding a bike, but I used to fall off my bike all the time, so we're not going to use that as an example. Oh crap, Tatiana! Shut down the plant! You're all backed up with free washes and dirt. Girl oil was flowing out of the machine like a gutted pig. Of course Mitch had to act quickly, because the team couldn't afford to spend too much time fixing the machine. As they looked for answers, they quickly found that the plug's thread was still attached to the cylinder. Mitch drove to the scene of the machine failure, eager to find a solution before Parker got back or before the end of the week. The biggest problem we run into is just having enough time in the day, he said. We're always trying to get every minute and hour we can of sleigh time, because that's how you get good cleanup and how you have a lot of goals at the... Even worse, he had just realized how bad the damage was. Alec had to tell him that they might have been in over their heads with this one. The damage was so bad that Alec thought they might not be getting any gold anytime soon, not when the machine was broken. Disappointed but determined, Mitch decided to look at the superstacker himself, in the hopes that he could find a better way to fix it. After seeing how bad the damage was with the old plug, Mitch came to the conclusion that they thought that getting a new plug might bring their machine back to life. Unfortunately, there were no plug shops or even hardware stores in the area. What were they going to do? To make matters worse, I'm out here trying to get some more material up and we're able to get it through the wash plant quickly. You know, it could be the difference between hitting our mark here and getting 700 outs, and we're not even down to P yet. Mitch soon realized that he had one of these plugs sitting at something as small as a plug could keep them from meeting their weekly goal. How would they solve this problem when Parker wasn't around to lead? Mitch had always found a way to help the team, and hopefully this won't turn into a bigger problem. They couldn't risk going into town because they weren't sure they'd find the plug there. They needed to work together to find a way to replace the broken plug. How were they going to find a new plug? The last thing we want is for something to go wrong, so we're just going to be nice and gentle with her and get her into place out of work. After some brainstorming, Mitch quickly realized that the answer might be right there. He decided that they might have luck looking for solutions in some of the old rock trucks they had lying around. All the old trucks to see if they could find a plug. But what was wrong with these trucks and plugs? If they found a plug that wasn't too big, it would eventually end up being too small. It was like the broken down trucks were making fun of them for having problems. Volvo makes the best trucks, but the loaders are a big part of our business, and they have to be running and have good uptime. How long would this search take, and how much time would they spend working on it instead of meeting their weekly goals? It shows how driven and determined these men were that they didn't give up on their search, even though they were frustrated. They kept looking for answers in other machines that had plugs in their quiver. You have a problem with Lucifer, so you have a feed direction problem or a chute that's blocked off down in the distributor or something, they would say. When Mitch and his team found a drilling machine that might have the plugs they needed for the superstacker, they were excited because they thought they had found the plug they were looking for. At first, they didn't see any plugs that might fit their superstacker, but eventually they did see one that would work. They quickly took the plug out of the machine and ran over to the superstacker, which was still standing there doing nothing. That's stripping 10 feet of frozen mud off the top, which you guys don't have time for. Hopefully this little plug will fix all of that and they can now keep trying to meet their goal for the week while Parker is away. Wanting to end this downtime, Mitch quickly tested the plug to see if it would actually work with their superstacker. After some work with the plug, Mitch was able to confirm that Alex's idea to look for the plug in old trucks and other machines was a good one. They thought going to the area was a good idea because they were able to replace their broken plug. Hopefully, this will help their superstacker get back to work. And they won't feel like they're letting Parker down while he's away. It only makes sense to slam it through a plant. I like it. If you can slow it, you don't have to strip it. I'm really confident that we can have a successful siege out here. They were almost jumping for joy when they saw how the plug fit into the superstacker. As a result of their creativity and teamwork, the superstacker seemed to be fully functional, so the team jumped at the chance to meet their weekly goal by getting back to work right away under Mitch's supervision. Hopefully, they could get back to normal before Parker gets back from his trip to Alaska with good news that he finished the business with the claims in the Indian River. They were already behind schedule, and Mitch was a little nervous because it was their first time running the plant. With a lot of trust in me, I took on a big job by myself. The team hoped that Big Red and Lucifer could make up for the time lost so that they could meet Parker's goals before he came back. They hoped that things would go smoothly from then on. A few days after the Super Stacker failed, Mitch realized that they were still behind schedule, and that they might not be able to meet their goals before Parker came back if they weren't careful. No one wants to be giving up. Making excuses to the boss, running some of that material down Lucifer is expensive, takes a lot of time, and is hard on people. If we don't solve it, we lose it. Even if he's as great as Parker. Taking all of these things into account, Mitch decided that the best thing to do was to take control of the Super Stacker himself. He hoped that he could get the most out of the huge machine while sitting behind the wheel. With the Super Stacker under his command, they might be able to. That was the only way they could get to all the gold in the pay dirt. Not long after, Mitch came up with a way to connect the Super Stacker to Lucifer. If it stops moving, it turns into parts. It's $1 million drill. Let's take a look over there. Is that the right stuff? We just need a smaller version of that. All of this was made bigger so that the pay dirt could move smoothly to the wash plant. Mitch was driving, and he slowly moved forward to move to its rightful place near the top of the 30-foot pad that was fixed some time ago, and where Lucifer was mounted. When it was all done, Mitch was proud to tell his team that they had done a great job. They had faced problems head-on and come out on top thanks to their creativity and determination. He couldn't have asked for more from them as a team, and now they can hopefully focus on meeting their season goal. It's great to know that Mitch and Parker can, as you leave, things are still going as they should. You know, that's what we do here. We find gold and move dirt, and hopefully there's a lot more to come, instead of wasting time trying to solve problems that don't seem possible. Alec and the rest of the team were thrilled as they cheered and hooted in agreement. Now they could watch with satisfaction as the Super Stacker and Lucifer worked together to slew gold. They had wasted a lot of time trying to find gold. There are solutions to the problems that arose when the bad plug caused that terrible oil leak. The bottom of this mask lift cylinder has a little plug in it. Maybe it's the right one. Let's go try it out. How will they show Parker that he can trust them when he's not there if they suddenly have problems that can't be fixed? Luckily they fixed it, but now both the Super Stacker and Lucifer will have to work extra hours to make up for the time they lost, that they would have to pay for this expensive malfunction. Hopefully they'll be able to meet their goal for the week. Eager to keep the Super Stacker and Lucifer running, the team watched with joy as their two wash plants worked hard to sling all that valuable gold. To their delight, they saw that both Lucifer and Big Red kept working, and by the end of the week they were even happier to say that they hadn't had any other failures, as the machines kept working long hours too. Today is a really big day for me. I'm going to drag Slur to her first home of the season. We just need to make sure she gets there safely. They began their ascent to Lucifer's wash plant pad, which is quite steep. Soon they were ready to greet their boss, and soon they were all glad to have Parker back on the site as if nothing had happened while he was gone. However, there must have been some nervousness in the camp when it came time to weigh what they had extracted from. After all the problems they had with the wash plant and the Super Stacker that week, they weren't surprised if they didn't meet their goal for the week. However, the team was seen having a great time after getting their loot, so the casual observer thought they might have had a good week in the mines. Usually we don't slay this much gravel, so I'm a little worried about the amount of it here. Right now, Bean has about 5 or 6 cuts left, so hopefully they met their goal. But before we could be sure, Parker's mind went back to the conveyor belt. He was curious about what happened to the Super Stacker conveyor belt, which led to a conversation about the belt and the oil leak that could ruin their plans for the week. Mitch had no choice but to tell Parker what happened while he was away. There isn't much to say else. There was no room for error. I was starting to go downhill behind me backwards with the plant attached. We were going to pull the plant straight back, and then I was going to spin around. He told them about the conveyor belt and how it was replaced, and how they had to look all over for this tiny plug that could have ruined the work of such a huge 120T machine. This experience brought the men closer together, and some might even say that it made Parker believe in his men even more. Mitch stepped up as a leader who could find ways to keep the business going. I was really hoping you'd be where I could grab this dozer from you, grab the other 112 and take him up to Australia Creek. I don't think we'll be able to get through the dirt without the big dozer while he's gone. After this, the group went back to the wash plants, which were said to have been working non-stop all week, like they were possessed. As a result, both wash plants looked like they had done a great job. I had the pleasure of working with Parker on more than 175 episodes of this fascinating TV show. I was really hoping you would be out of spots so I could take this dozer from you along with the other 112 and take him up to Australia Creek. I don't see how we'll get through the dirt without the big dozer. In most of them, he has shown his skill despite not being a certified mechanic. What he lacked in education, he more than made up for in creativity, as he learned everything he knew from his own experience. Mitch has now proven that he is an indispensable part of Parker's mining company. I had to push myself a bit because I'm new to running an excavator, but it looks like I'm getting the hang of it. I just need to remember which stick does which maneuver. From the problems that arise when Parker Schnabel isn't on the crew to the chances that these problems will stop the team from reaching their goals for the week, here's what Mitch Blash did to deal with them. Try not to get fired by Parker Schnabel.